and welcome from wherever you join me today. Yes, it's me again, Jim Black from the Three Hats Stage Media channel, trying to bring entertaining content media for all the world's stages. This is a Pause for Thought edition where I review one of my favourite movies and see what message we can take from it and how we could use those insights in today's busy lives. All the movies come from the past several decades, some you may know and some you may not. They come from a book or screenplay, have a great cast and a fabulous soundtrack. As you can see from the lightbox just to my side, today's movie is no exception. It's The Devil Wears Prada and it's from 2006. It's adapted from the book by Lauren Weisberger and the screenplay is by Aline Brosh McKenna. And she's also done things such as My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and 27 Dresses. There is really an all-star cast in this. You've got Meryl Streep. She plays Miranda Priestley, but what's your favourite movie that she's ever done? My wife's is The Bridges of Madison County, and I must admit it's quite a good movie, which I should review in the future. There's Anne Hathaway. She plays Andy Sachs. Now, all I can think of from her is Princess Diaries, and you've got my daughters to blame for that, because we had to watch it over and over again. Oh, a bit like my favourites. There's Emily Blunt. She plays Emily, and you'll know her from Girl on the Train, Mary Poppins Returns, and Salmon Fishing on the Yemen, to name but a few. There's Stanley Tucci. He plays Nigel. What a great name. And you'll know him from Prizzi's Honour, which was 1985. He played a soldier. And things such as Fortitude, Lovely Bones, and he had a part in ER. There's Simon Drake. He plays Christian Thompson, and you'll know him from Home and Away, a very long time ago, The Mentalist, and The Guardian. There's many others in this movie as well, but far too many to mention. So I ask, is it right? Are we all guilty of wearing Prada sometimes? And is it alright to do so? Let's get into this movie review and find out. How many hats do you wear? You could say I wear 3. And when I've got those hats on, I can be a different character every time. There's many different outfits that we wear in life. And each time we put a different outfit on, we become that thing, that person, that idea, or that event even that we go into. Hopes and dreams are always about things that make us happy. And if we can be somebody else for just one moment, it takes things away from normal life that might be hard at times. There's others, however, that have a persona. Sometimes it's not a good one. But, you know, the people that think that, they don't really understand what that person is about anyway. This movie is about Andy Sachs, and it follows her as she gets a job as a second assistant for one of the largest fashion magazines in New York City, Runway. It's not what she thinks, because she's got her own ideas, obviously. But it's not the type of thing that she really wants either. So let's see how those elements affect her throughout this movie as we get into this plot. So at the start of the movie, we see Andy Sachs taking up her new position as second assistant at the Runway magazine in New York City. Andy's a lovely girl. She's got good intentions and she wants to be leading the world in journalism. This is just temporary so she can learn a bit about the business, but she sees herself in some big newspaper giving out proper news stories that matter in the world. The first assistant is Emily. She's one of those that runs around like a headless chicken because if Miranda doesn't get what she wants, there's trouble. So if a Starbucks coffee is required at 8 o'clock in the morning, it needs to be on that desk of Miranda's, or else. Miranda, however, she is all-powerful. She has a reputation second to none, and people shake when she walks in a room. If she says jump, you don't say how high, you say how high and how many times do you want me to do it. She's an all-powerful woman in the industry, and it's one of those magazines that we all see on the newsstands, and it supposedly drives the world. Well, certain parts of it anyway. Andy's been brought up with all the right intentions, good family, good schooling, and she's got to where she is now. She's taken a job that millions would kill for because it's one of those jobs that people like for some unknown reason. Might be to do with the perks, I think. You know, the free clothes, handbags, shoes. I know a lot of people would like that. She lives with her boyfriend Nate, who's a chef, and they get on really well. They've got a good life, good set of friends, and that's what it's all about for them too. Miranda, however, she's a driven woman. Nothing gets in her way, especially personal life. She's been married a few times, she's got a lovely set of twins, she doesn't have much time for them, and there's a nanny that helps her out. Also, the assistants, first and second, have to take things around to her house on a regular basis so that her world runs well and she doesn't have to do anything apart from pick up and deliver, which is what it's all about for her. She misses the important things in life, but what can you say about that? A lot of people do, and when they realise it's way too late. So it's all around the Paris Fashion Week, which is happening sometime in the future. But we've got to get to that first. And we're going to see that Andy slowly becomes taken in by it all. We see different rooms where they're showing different things. There's meetings going on about what's going in the magazine, what's not going in the magazine. There's lots of scarves for some unknown reason. In one scene, I think they all blow in the air and go all over the place. Andy starts to run round just like Emily does. Everybody's running around to make sure that things happen. Maybe that's why it's called runway, because you're running all the time. I'm not sure about that though. That might be some trivia I've just put in that doesn't really exist. We come up to a charity ball that Miranda is hosting. Everything has to be right, everybody has to be wearing the right things, and all the right people have to be there. It's Miranda's job not to remember names. That's for Emily and Andy to do. They stand behind her and whisper in her ear who's coming up so she can just say, "Hello, Mr. Smith. Hello, Mrs. Jones," just like she knew that they were there in the first place. Emily is very poorly. She's got a cold. Miranda doesn't like that. She sees that as weakness. Then all of a sudden, after the event, Miranda says to Andy, "You're going to Paris and Emily is not. You're far better than she is, and I know that you want it more than she does." By this time, Andy's changed. She's now wearing all the right fashion brands, but she didn't really want to be at the event because she's missed some important life events. Do you remember? I said we often miss it if we get caught up in what we shouldn't be getting caught up in. Nate's birthday, and being out with all the friends, she gets there a bit late. They're not happy, they mock her, as they would, and Andy starts to feel being a bit left out. When Emily finds out that she's not going to Paris, she's not happy, because she's worked hard for that. It's what her life's all been about. She even eats tiny bits of food, just to stay slim. Now why on earth would you do that? Anyway, an accident happens, Emily gets knocked over, it puts her in a hospital with her leg in a plaster, so all works out in the end. Although it doesn't really, does it? Because that shouldn't have happened. Andy's been building a part, but little did she know, and there's a phrase that we often say, she's being groomed. Not in a bad way, but in a way that's going to make her exactly what Miranda wants, which is somebody that can think before she needs to. And she'll do the things that's needed to make Miranda's life so much easier. At one of the points in the movie, she's asked to get the latest Harry Potter books, which is impossible because they're kept under lock and key. But Christian, who she's met on a few occasions at different events, he says that he knows where they are and he can get them and that will be all okay. Anyway, he does get them and she does present them to the twins who read them on the train. That's important, so I want you to remember that bit because there's something coming up about that towards the end. She started to make a few friends at Runway, Nigel especially. He didn't like her at first because he thought, you know, she was looking down on everybody, with it being that fashion magazine that she didn't like in the first place. But after time, he's warmed to her and he's helped her dress and become that person that Miranda wanted. Again, Miranda making things happen behind the scenes, or is she? So we move to Fashion Week, over in Paris. But then it would be there, wouldn't it? Because it's called Paris Fashion Week. Yeah, okay. And this is where things take another turn. Andy is so wrapped up in everything now. Everything's happening, everything's changing. She gets drunk one night. She ends up going back with Christian, and you can imagine things happen that maybe shouldn't have done. But she wants to forget all that, and this is starting to make her realise that things are bad, and she's turning into Miranda Priestley. How could that have happened? How do we turn into somebody else? If we spend enough time with the right people, then surely we'll become the right people. But the wrong people always work that way as well, don't they? It's the spoiler alarms. They're starting to go off, and I can't really tell you any more, because once the fashion week ends and we all end up back in New York, this is where Andy decides that enough's enough, and she can't take any more. Her whole life has been ruined. It can't be repaired to back how it was, because after all, feelings have been hurt, things have been said. So, she's got to try and make the best out of it. But will she become a journalist that she's always wanted to become? Will she continue working for Runway? Will Miranda have her working for Runway? What will happen to Emily and Nigel and all those people? And will the magazines that we know back then from this film still be going today, 2020? You'll have to wait and see and watch the movie. Although you won't have to wait and see about the magazines, because you could just go out and have a look. Life's about different outfits, what we put on and who we become. It's nice to be something else, even for a short time. But it's nice to be the person that is you. Because after all, you're that person most of the time. Try and live your life as happy as you can. But if you want to change your outfit and be somebody else for a moment, that's good. Just do it. Why not? Always remember what I say. The end of something is always the new beginning. And as we've seen in all the movie reviews that I've done, it happens. Although I've never tell you the ending, obviously. But just imagine the new story at the end of the book is going to happen without you even knowing about it. But all the things you know about it, they must be in place somewhere along the way. The trivia in this movie is really good. Did you know, for example, that Stanley Tucci, who plays Nigel, great name by the way, I think I've already said that, and Felicity, who he marries, is Emily Blunt's sister. But did you also know that at their wedding, Emily Blunt was a bridesmaid and nobody wore Prada? Somewhere in the movie, I think it's in the apartment or maybe on the desk of Andy, you'll see a photograph of her with her parents. This is her real life parents. David Marshall Grant and Kate Macaulay Hathaway. And by the way, David is in this movie as well. You'll see him when they're having dinner together. And the final piece of trivia I have for you today is that if you remember, I told you that the twins were reading Harry Potter on the train. If you look closely, you'll see a woman figure sitting with them. This is their nanny. And did you know that it's the author, Lauren Weisberger? Yes, that's interesting, isn't it? You won't be able to find her in the credits though, because she's unlisted. The music in this movie is really good too. You've got Ray LaMontagne, you've got Madonna, you've got Katie Tunstall. You've got U2. You've got The Good Listeners, and you've got Bittersweet. And you've also got one of my favourite bands, and that's Belle and Sebastian. I hope you enjoyed this movie review for today. If you want to know where my thoughts and inspirations come from, please click on the bio links below and they'll take you for a closer look. If you want to join our community, then please hit the subscription button. And if you want to know when the next one's uploaded, strike the bell and that will let you know. Comments are always welcome. Please leave them just below and I'll get back to you. I promise, as and when I can. I've been Jim Black for the Three Hats Stage Media channel for this edition of Pause for Thought. See you again soon.